Here's part 2 of Ezekiel J. Cralen's story, The Mask of Horus. And I read you the part 1 last week and stopped just a hair after this part. So I'm going to start here. Make sure that we're all on the same page. Right. Over and out. Clarence turned to Horus. Sorry to do this to you, good buddy, but I have no choice. Clarence swerved the patrol car at a sharp angle, ejecting his centurion pal from the back seat at the same moment. Feces, thought Horus, descending to earth in a thick bank of clouds. This is a forbidden sector. I'll get chewed out good for this one. As he fell, the fog cleared, revealing the Transamerica Pyramid, the Bay Bridge, and, of course, the Golden Gate. Horus alighted in a single resident occupancy at 2306 Market Street, San Francisco, sometime in the very late 20th century. He looked at the crummy walls, the crummy furnishings, the crummy view across the street. Wells Fargo Bank, open-air ATM outlet, homophobic wino on SSI begging for coins, long line of disillusioned wage slaves, faggots and dykes in faded pink triangle T-shirts. Man around 36 to 40 talked on the phone, unaware as yet of the miraculous presence that stood directly behind him. Horus thought, suffering succotash of sinful souls, is this dude going to get the doggy bone? And waited patiently. Just cut the crap, okay? The man finished and slammed the receiver into its cradle. Furious about something, he picked up a pen and began scribbling notes to himself. Horus leaned over his shoulder to read milk, oranges, sharp cheddar cheese, honey, tomatoes, sesame butter, Acmac crackers. Exasperated, he tossed the pen aside and turned in Horus's direction, blinded by anger. Accustomed to mortal's slow ability to perceive otherworldly manifestations, the warrior god did not move until the man, open-mouthed, gradually perceived the specter of a strong masculine figure with brilliant silver hair and the head of a parakeet. The avian face shone with luminous tones more brilliant than any on earth, scarlet, lime, white, and vermilion. The man's eyes watered from the brightness of the colors, and realized he was having a vision. "Are you Ra, the Egyptian sun god?" He squinted at the living icon. "No, I am Horus, vindicator of the innocent and guardian of dead souls." Silver wings sprouted from his new combat boots, and he recalled an obligation from Hermes to convey a message to someone at this address. So he knelt on the ruddy carpet, extending cupped hands before the man, and said, "I bear you many gifts." The man looked into the god's hands, but could not peer through the explosive beams of light that streamed from his palms. "I can't see anything," he claimed. "Must be gifts of the spirit," he mused. "Is one of them to bring Randolph back to me?" Horus then rose to his full towering height and proclaimed, "You will soon paint my face." The man looked up at him and shook his head. "Oh, I'm not that good." "You will be," stated Horus, who then removed his head, which was, after all, only a mask, to reveal his true identity. Horus took the man's hands, and they both sat in chairs facing each other, knees touching. The man tenderly clasped Horus' hands in both of his and smiled, "Oh, Randolph, it's so good to be with you again." The rest of this you won't remember. Horus pulled the awestruck man onto his lap and showered him with tender kisses. They lay down on the small bed and talked and laughed. Several times the lonely man wept on Horus' shoulder. Never had the centurion seen another being so much at peace from just a small kindness. He caressed the man to sleep and returned to his own world. When the man awoke, head resting in arms folded on the desk, he sat up and stretched. The glare from a computer screen shone on his face, and he squinted. Strange daydream, he thought, reaching for the keyboard to continue a letter. Even when cast before swine, do not lose their luster. Now, sweetheart, what I am about to say, I have said many times before in many different ways, but I believe it bears repeating, for I know what is in your heart, and I know what you need to hear. I understand you have seen the worst of war in Vietnam, and this will burn in your heart forever. Yet, in faith, God will heal even that wound. While this is the worst, you have suffered other tragedies still more terrible than any I have known. Nevertheless, not to seem arrogant or know-it-all on my part, I encourage you to keep the faith. Didn't you once tell me that from a distance of 3,000 miles, while you lay there with your self-inflicted bullet lodged so close to your heart, not knowing whether or not your hospital bed would also be your deathbed? January 16, 1985 will always ring like a bellwether in my mind. I enclose a copy of that incredible and your first letter to me. It has been 6 years since that shocking event. Have your dreams since dimmed? The last 4 years I have hardly heard from you, most recent being your mysterious phone call August 1990, more than a year ago. Yet I write to you faithfully, must be volumes by now, for when I first laid eyes on you, God spoke to me, "Jeannie, this is your lover. He will put you through hell, but in time he will return everything. Stand by him." So I stand by you in spirit for more than 6 years now, knowing that you count on me as your best friend to tell you what you need to hear. Despite your seeming indifference and sometimes in your rare communique your apparent cruelty, I am not infatuated, but a clear voice in my heart says to keep being there for you. I don't know where you are, somewhere on the East Coast, I guess, but can only trust that my letters, care of your cousin Kitty in Arlington, continue to reach you. To say that I miss you is the mother of all understatements. Semper Fidelis, my silver steed Randolph of the blazing temper tantrum. My painting and writing are progressing nicely, but right now I'm going through a dry cycle. I hope my painting of Unicorn Without a Horn still delights you, as it did while you were laid up in that Pennsylvania hospital. I just had an interesting daydream about you. Perhaps it was a vision. The Egyptian god Horus appeared before me with the usual bird's head, but instead of a hawk, it was a parakeet. Visual pun on paradise? Then he removed his head, which turned ... A shiny object suddenly caught the man's eye. He stepped away from the computer to pick it up. "Some sort of aerosol," he mumbled, turning it in his hand. The label was too small to easily read, so he rummaged in his dresser for the magnifying glass. On the canister, he read, "Seventh sealant, aerosol prophylactic for both personal and industrial use. A quantum leap beyond traditional condoms and temporary factory sealants, 100% effective against the spread of AIDS, venereal infections, and all other non-airborne viral, bacterial, chemical invasions, or money-back guaranteed. Excellent replacement for industrial goggles. 100% non-deteriorating for its serviceable life, yet completely dissolves after 50 minutes. Impermeability level 99, molecular. Stress level 18, 4.5 tons. Hardness level 9, carborundum. Tactile level 0, none. Flexibility level 74, micro thin gauge. Biodegradability level 1, minute. Warning. Evacuate thoroughly before anal application. Do not apply to penis tip or labia. Do not apply to both oral and nasal cavities for the same session. Do not apply to more than 1/4 of your total body surface area. Criminal use will result in life termination. Ozone-friendly, hypoallergenic, comes in 5 different fragrances: musk, vanilla, lotus, leather, and socks. Meanwhile, back in New Athens, Horus sat sulking on a new marble bench in the Bodhisattva Gardens tea room and fantasy emporium. He laid a half-eaten cucumber sandwich on the ledge of a bubbly fountain. A Cupid holosculp, poised on one toe in the center of this fountain, stopped his pissing for a moment. "Ah, come on, guy," he said, tapping Horus on the shoulder with a Nerf arrow. 2 weeks probation ain't so bad. You did violate a territorial sanction, you know. Horus, head resting in cupped hands, did not reply. "What's half a month in the life of an immortal?" Cupid implored. "Imagine how much more inferior we'd all feel if the chief commander of Armageddon didn't slip up once in a while." When Cupid saw that Horus still refused to respond, he whacked him on the mask with the arrow. "Ouch! Stop that!" Cupid urinated on the sandwich. "Snap out of it before you bring the wrath of Artemis on us all." "Oh, Erosito, it's not the job," Horus sighed. "I'm in love." "In love? Finally. Well, congratulations, you strapping brute." Cupid paused to reflect. "Sure wasn't my doing. Not with these wimpy arrows the administrator of Native New American Affairs is handing out these days." Horus sighed dreamily. No, I'm not sad at all. I'm stunned with adoration for a very fine fellow. I wonder if I even deserve him. Wow, you really are smitten, aren't you? Reminds me of the good old days when I could frolic in the glades, shooting off dart after dart to every hapless victim in sight. Now I can't even afford the license fees, let alone new Kiwanis Club membership, park registration, business insurance. No, Cupid, give yourself credit where credit's due. You are the guardian of romantic love, in a time when people, and I might add even goddesses and gods, not only no longer believe in that dream, but rant and rave against it. But I have been blessed to meet a dear soul who is truly a pearl of great price. Horus spread his arms before the fountain. So, my little buddy, congratulations on a sterling performance. Cupid radiated joy and blushed a rosy bronze. Well, I did say a prayer for you, my good lord. You must meet him, Cupid. Then you, too, will be silenced by the great wonder Jehovah has wrought in this being. Well, come on, implored the cherub. Tell me already who's the lucky boy. Via Demon? Sri Loki? Terameus? Avalon? Aldarin? Horus shook his lowered head. No, my Angelito, he's not a boy. He is a capital R, capital M, real man who lives every moment in the true spirit of Christ. Cupid dropped his quiver into the fountain with a soft plash and exclaimed, A boy? Not? You have changed, my god Horus. Then, with dawning awareness, Cupid gasped, A man, a real man, not one of us, a mortal for deity's sake. Horus slowly nodded. Yes, I'm afraid so. He walks with dignity, moves with grace, speaks no false words. Yet he is humble, clumsy, and funny. The gods always put him in awkward situations, not to belittle him, but to see how this refreshingly innocent spirit blossoms like a hyacinth amid a copse of nettle, each and every time. He is the amazing genie of the heart's magic lamp. "Och!" claimed Cupid in a mock swoon. "True love doth coat a wooden tongue with an eloquent wax, my spellbound amigo. I fear far less the serpent's tongue." Deaf to Cupid's joke, the centurion completed his praise. There is not a cowardly bone in his body, yet his heart shines with compassion. Well, obviously you have thought this through, his being immortal and all that, Cupid pondered. I was about to interrogate, but I can see now his spirit dances in your heart. But tell me this, O love-struck judge of man. Horus looked up at Cupid, who leaned closer from his pedestal, brow wrinkled in confusion. Why do you hesitate to grant him the gift of immortality, so you can bring him to live with us in these happy hunting grounds? A tear trickled down Horus' neck. I hesitate because I am afraid he might not want me. Cupid frowned. Oh, you hesitate because Yahweh might choose for you the other option, that you become mortal. Horus waved away that thought. Oh, no, I wouldn't hesitate for 1 nanosecond to be by his side, come new hell or high water, if I only knew for sure his little lamb heart would rest beside mine. Horus stopped in midstream and said, Cupid, I know mortals can have visions of immortals. Yes, it happens quite often, agreed the putty of bow and quiver, but like dreams are usually ill-remembered. Yes, well, Horus deliberated, but can a god have visions of a mortal? A very interesting question. Here, look at this. Horus reached into his gear bag. He pulled out a folded sheet of loose-leaf paper and handed it to Cupid. Apparently, Jeannie slipped this in when I was distracted. Jeannie? The cherub carefully opened it and read, To my silver-haired stallion, Horus, Lord of Light. Ah, sweet Jesus, to kiss you is to kiss an angel. Love, Jeannie. Taped to the note was a shiny quarter. Cupid shrugged his shoulders and sighed. Well, looks like we just got to find a new commander-in-chief, and with a wave of a droopy arrow, shuffled him off to the mortal coil. The parakeet mask lay at the base of the fountain. Oh, boy, Jean grinned to himself, skip-walking happily down Castro Street, tossing the 7th sealant into the air time and time again. No matter how he cast it, the free-falling can of aerosol always found his hand. He thought of hurling it across the street to astound people when it flew back to him, but he caught himself and said, Now, Jeannie, thou shalt not tempt thy Father who art in heaven. With that, he flung the sealant over the roof of Cliff's Variety, and sure enough, it swung around like a boomerang back into Jeannie's gifted hand. He examined the canister. Must have some sort of homing device. Radar, maybe. Of course, no one paid attention, since Jeannie was your token Castro Village fool. Being manic-depressive, as are all true artists, and after 8.5 years of residence here, people chose to ignore his sporadic and emotional flights of fancy. Besides, anyone who did notice thought it was a can of mace and gave him a wide berth. He looked around at the self-absorbed humans rushing to really, quote, important things like, who will I trick with tonight? What's the latest dirt at Castro Station? If I let that jaded old queen suck my dick, will he pop for dinner? You suckers! Jean hollered, laughing all the way to Without Reservation for his morning cup of coffee and the Daily News. Can't wait to meet Gorbachev, he mused. I'm sure he'll appreciate my input on the Presidio Foundation. Randolph sat at the counter sipping coffee when Jeannie stepped in. Fini. And then after that, in brackets, it says, for some reason, Neptune's nipples. I'm not really sure what that means, but there it is.